Here is the fix for social anxiety.
So let's get right to it. Why does your body react to a client meeting like it's a car crash? This is a core inefficiency. It's an illogical and frankly unacceptable gap between the objective threat in front of you and your physiological response.
And here's the scale of that system error. You are looking at a massive performance gap. The actual objective threat of most social situations is a 5 out of 100, but the physiological response is cranked all the way up to 95. Now let's be very clear. This is not a personal failing. This is a quantifiable system malfunction.
Okay, so let's run a system diagnostic. We are going to treat this like a mechanic would, as a mechanical problem, not an emotional one.
Here's the most crucial point to understand. Your threat detection system is malfunctioning. And I want you to think of this as a hardware problem, not a software problem. Your ancient survival programming, the stuff that was calibrated for lethal threats, is misfiring in a modern, low-stakes social environment.
So what failed? The root cause is a broken regulator. Let's get under the hood and inspect the specific components that went wrong.
The system has two key parts you need to know about. First, you've got the amygdala. That's the threat detector. Think of it as the smoke alarm. Then you have the prefrontal cortex, which is the regulatory brake. In this malfunction, the smoke detector can't tell the difference between you burning some toast and the entire house burning down. It just screams fire for both. And this right here, this is the circuit breaking. In a regulated system, your prefrontal cortex inhibits the amygdala. It applies the brake and calms things down. But in the dysregulated system we're fixing, the amygdala's alarm signal just completely overrides the prefrontal cortex. The brake fails, and the alarm runs totally unchecked.
And we have the data to prove this is a physical, repairable problem. This isn't just theory. Post-treatment neuroimaging, brain scans, show that reducing symptoms is directly correlated with rewiring this hardware, specifically by strengthening that brake line between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. A successful intervention literally changes the physical structure of your brain.
So, a fair question. If the system is broken, why doesn't it self-correct? Well, it's because there's a specific mechanism that maintains the malfunction and actively locks it in place.
That mechanism is something called safety behaviors. These are any actions you take to prevent a feared catastrophe. Things like rehearsing your sentences, gripping a cup to hide shaking hands, avoiding eye contact. And here's the paradox. These very actions are the maintenance crew for the malfunction. They are the primary reason the system stays broken.
This creates a vicious 5-step reinforcement loop. It starts when you predict a catastrophe. You react by using a safety behavior. Of course, the catastrophe doesn't happen. But, and this is the critical error, your brain misattributes survival to the safety behavior, not to the fact that there was never any real danger. The result? The original fear is reinforced, and the system is locked in a cycle, preventing it from ever learning the truth.
What's really happening here is your brain is getting a powerful but faulty reward signal. That feeling of relief you get when the threat doesn't materialize is misinterpreted by your brain's reward circuits. It registers that drop in anxiety as a success, which reinforces the avoidance behavior and locks the fear in place. It's a classic negative reinforcement loop.
All right, diagnostics complete. Now for the fix. This is the standard operating procedure for repair, the violation protocol.
Now this requires a critical tactical shift. The old model, habituation, was all about trying to reduce fear. That is not our goal. The new, effective model, inhibitory learning, has a completely different objective: to violate expectations. We are not trying to feel calm. We are trying to prove the brain's catastrophic predictions wrong. The engine that drives this whole fix is something called prediction error. See, real learning is driven by the discrepancy, the gap, between what the brain predicted would happen and what actually happened. So to rewire the circuit, we have to generate a prediction error signal that is large enough to force the system to update its entire model of the world.
And this is your central operational tool, the violation of expectation matrix. From now on, you're not surviving social situations, you are running targeted experiments to gather corrective data. You state the prediction, that's the bet. You design the experiment, the test. You identify which safety behaviors to drop, and you log the result, the cold, hard data.
Mandatory failure mode check. Listen up, this is critical. This entire protocol will fail if you use safety behaviors during the experiment. If you run the test with your shield up, like apologizing after a pause,
Your brain gives the shield credit for the outcome. No new data gets received, no learning occurs, and the system stays broken.
Okay, let's synthesize all of this into a final directive. This is your immediate action plan.
Here is the repair manual, your implementation protocol. 1. Isolate one specific catastrophic prediction. 2. Identify the single safety behavior that prevents you from testing it. 3. Design the behavioral experiment to violate that prediction. 4. Execute. Drop the safety behavior completely. And 5. Log the data. Compare your prediction to the actual result.
Your directive is this: identify one safety behavior, drop it in a social interaction within the next 24 hours, execute.